This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. This is a Fast Break Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. Too bad this isn't a video podcast because Dave and Ricky are being weird with their thumbs right now, but we got Ricky Widmer.
What's up?
And Dave Oster.
Hey, everybody.
And we are going to be talking about some Russell Westbrook. We're going to be talking about Drew Holiday and the resurgence of the Pelicans, apparently, because they're 6-4 in the past 10, and they've been looking good with Drew Holiday returning. And then we're talking trades. We're talking trades, guys. Trades?
Because it's never too early to talk trades.
Talking trades. And we're going to be talking about who's going to be traded before the All-Star break. December 15th is a deadline that's going to be very interesting to see what happens after that.
December 15th is when, if the players who sign deals in the offseason, they can now get packaged into those deals.
So that's going to be an interesting...
Makes moving people a little easier.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see what happens there and see if anyone is moved. And we'll talk a little bit about that, who could be moved, any big names are going around. But let's talk first about the Oklahoma City Thunder. They have been bad lately. 3-7 in their past 10. They are on a losing streak to go along with... Actually, they're on a winning streak right now. They've won one game, but outside of that, they've been pretty bad. But Russ has been fantastic, and we're not surprised by that. Russ has almost passed LeBron James for most triple-doubles in a career. I believe he's at 44. LeBron's at 46, I believe.
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that.
And as we record this, I'm sure he'll get like 2 more overnight. So.
Exactly. So Russ has been absolutely ridiculous. But the question that we're really posing here, and it was the question that we kind of talked a little bit when he re-signed, was, can Russell Westbrook lead the Thunder to the playoffs by himself? Because
and I feel like carry might be the more applicable term there, because can he lead? Many people do see him as a leader on that team. His maturity's been called into question before, but at the same time, dude is a general on the floor, and you have to respect him. He's passionate. But this team had some question marks coming into the season with Oladipo being brought in. Obviously, they flipped around some pieces to get extra, but like you've got 2 bigs down low, which we all assumed it was pretty much going to be Russ, Adams, and Cantor. That's how they're going to win their games. And to be honest, we haven't seen a lot of great production there. We've seen some good pick and roll play here and there, but it's spotty at best.
Well, and to me, the big thing that I'm thinking of is when we made our preseason predictions, I wanted to so badly. There was a part of me that's like, you know what? Put the Thunder at 9. Put them just out of the playoffs.
Oh, I wanted them high.
Well, and the reason why I say that is...
You put them high, too.
Pocket Depot. Or pocket. You got Pocket Westbrook and regular, like full-size Westbrook, mini Westbrook. I mean, why not?
Well, and the thing I looked back to was 2 years ago when the 14-15 season, we saw this movie, whatever you want to call it, already play out. KD was injured. It was Russell Westbrook's team for most of it. And did they make the playoffs that year? No. And I know it's a different team than that time, but it's one of those things where I'm looking at it right now and I'm going, hey, you know what? Looking at the numbers, is Russ a little bit better than that year? Yeah, he's got a little bit more points by like 3. He's shooting a little bit better from beyond the arc, around the same from 2. His assist numbers are up and his rebounding numbers are up from that year.
He's 0.2 away from having averaging a triple-double right
and
now.
It's one of those things where, can one guy carry a team all the way to the playoffs? My answer is no, unless you're LeBron James.
Really? You don't think Russell Westbrook can carry this Thunder team?
It's going to be interesting to see.
Even if he does something that hasn't been done since 1961.
He's somewhere. Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely amazing what he's doing out there, and the fact that triple doubles are now common in today's NBA is just mind-blowing to think about the way that we've changed in 10 years ago. I mean, everybody's like, oh, well, LeBron, if he wanted to, LeBron could probably have like 100 triple-doubles by now. Somebody actually looked it up. Someone on Reddit, I'm not going to remember their name, but like, yeah, if he was like 1 under or 1 away from in games with double-doubles, it was something like 100. He would be close to 100. And it's absurd.
And I just say he can't because this moment at the standings, it is 1 game separates the 9th team in the Lakers from the Thunder, who are the 6th seed if the playoffs started today.
And one thing I want to bring up here too, because we are early in the season here, and before we get to the talk of can he really lead, going to Dave's point about triple doubles, ESPN has a graphic from the Elias Sports Bureau where Oscar Robertson had 10 games in 1961 to 62 with 30 points, 15 assists, and 10 rebounds, and that's in a single season. Russ already has 4 games in that way this season where he's had 30 points, 15 assists, and 10 rebounds in his last game against Denver in OT at 36, 18, and 12. So obviously Russ has been ridiculous. He's in obviously fantastic company with Oscar Robertson, who's one of the best players of all time. I don't know where he'd rank for us, but still, I think with performances like that, it's hard to say he couldn't, because we saw James Harden. I mean, I know he did have a little bit of help from Dwight Howard there, but Dwight Howard wasn't the same Dwight Howard.
He's a fading man.
Yeah. He wasn't the same guy where they went to the Western Conference Finals. We saw that James Harden could do it, and I think that Russ is a better player than James Harden. Dave, we can discuss that a little bit.
That's an interesting discussion. We'll get to that later.
But at least because I think that his game, James Harden's a better shooter. But I think that Russ is the more dynamic player, at least. And
Russ is dynamic, yeah. I'll give you that.
And I think that he can do that, especially where him and Oladipo will grow and gel more throughout the season. You'll get Cantor, you'll get Adams into the mix a little bit more. Sabonis will get more acclimated to the NBA game. I think that this team will be fine. And then we've also seen Scott Presti or Sam Presti make so many moves at the deadline to bolster his team that I think the Thunder can make moves to help them. I think that Russell Westbrook can lead the Thunder to the playoffs by himself.
Well, is it really leading or is it carrying?
Carrying.
Because, I mean, the thing that
whatever term you want to use.
Well, you hope by the end of the year it's leading.
Well, and
let's be honest. Early in the season, maybe carrying.
Let's be honest. I phrase it that way because when I look at Russell Westbrook, he's not a player that I see. I don't see it as like a leader. Being like, because he's the one ball in my hands all the time. He doesn't seem like a guy. I know that his assist numbers are 9 or 10, but it's one of those things where I don't see him as a guy where, you know, let me get yours first. No, I'm going to get mine first, and I think that this Thunder team is going to rely too much on him. When you look at the top of each conference, I mean, Warriors. I mean, I shouldn't have started with them, but complete team. Clippers have a complete team. Spurs have a complete team. Go over to the East. I know the Cavs have LeBron James, so I'm not going to include them. They have the best player in the NBA. But
they also have
the Raptors. The Raptors, they are a team actually that I would say that maybe the Thunder can aspire to be. DeMar DeRozan playing completely out of his mind, but they do have a team around him of guys that you wouldn't expect to be a team, but they're there. The Hawks have a team. The Bulls have a team. These are actual players that are together.
I don't know about all these.
I'm going to completely disagree with you on the Toronto thing because Toronto proved last year that they're a team. And Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan and this whole same exact team went to the Eastern Conference Finals and was one of the best teams in the NBA. So I don't know if calling them not a team is... I think
strengthen my argument. They are a team.
I think DeMar DeRozan has been carrying him this year, but I don't think he needs to be carrying him like Russ needs to. And also with the Bulls, we haven't really seen them be a full team here. Ricky, I know you're drinking the Kool-Aid here. They're 10-4. It's been 14 games.
It's been a lot of individual performances during that.
I'm not saying the Bulls are going anywhere. I'm just saying you look at. I would use the Hawks more so because they're a team you have 5 guys averaging in double figures, but. I just think this Thunder team is going to rely too much on Russ this season, and they may finish 9th.
Well, that's a fair argument there because I mean you have the Hawks who are the Spurs East as we've said, and two, one thing with Oklahoma that. In these past 10 games, there's been a lot of close losses. Orlando was a 2-point loss. LA was a 2-point loss. You also have an overtime game against Indiana that was 115 to 111. The LA game as well, 111 to 109, where
it was
Uncle
literally
P,
last second.
Yeah, Swaggy P stole the ball from his own teammate, and really, I mean, even this Denver game could have been a loss as well. So. I think that Russ has proven that he can carry them in multiple games where he's scoring 41, 33, 30, 31, 34, 36 a night. And I think it's just more of he can carry his team to an 8th seed or a 7th seed or a 6th seed because we've seen it before. And James Harden did it last year as well because there was no Dwight Howard last year. They made it to the playoffs. They did have to face the Warriors, but I still think that he can carry them to the playoffs just because he is such a dynamic player. And is it, are the Thunder going to win a championship like the top 4 teams in the West and the East? No, but can they make the playoffs? I think they can.
Yeah, I think they're a dangerous team. And Ricky, what you mentioned earlier about, I'm going to have the ball in my hands and I'm going to look for my shots first, then pass later. At some point, though, that's the right call. I don't care if you want to call him a greedy player, but it doesn't matter. If he's the best shooter on the team at that time, then you want him. It's like AI back in the day.
Best shooter, best scorer.
Best scorer. I'm sorry. You're right.
Because Russ is a pretty shitty shooter.
He's average.
Yeah.
Go back to the AI days where it's like, oh yeah, they really tried to have him play like team ball. So he'd pass the ball around and he'd get it back with about 4 seconds left, and be like, go create something for yourself in these 4 seconds, or you're screwed. And he kind of got burnt by that, and then you saw what became AI ball, which was just balls in my hands. I do what I want, and you're all just here to watch, which is awesome. But I think Russ is still looking for people as outlets. Obviously, his assist numbers are fantastic, but like I think he's building up some trust with Oladipo. They're new teammates. Same with Sabonis. I think we're all very high in him. His shooting has been fantastic. He came out of the gates firing. Really, my big surprise is the lack of dominance down low by Cantor and Adams. And I think that until those two guys start picking it up and playing the level they should be on, closer to where they were during the last playoff series, then we'll start to see this Thunder team, and he can lead and not carry.
Well, and the big thing for this is a Thunder now as a team. This is not just Russell Westbrook. If you look at the Western Conference, the big thing I'm looking at right now is from the 6th seed down through 8. We have really, to me right now, 4 teams, maybe 5 as the season goes on, that could fight for all 3 of those spots. You got the Thunder, Jazz, and Blazers, who are technically in the playoffs if it ended today. The Lakers, who have shown flashes so far in this young season.
One of the top offenses.
And to me, I'm going to give all the credit to their coach. They're a well-coached team, and that's where it starts. But another team, and we're going to talk about them later in this podcast, a team that could be going on a run, the Pelicans. They're that like 5th team where it's like, don't count them out now that they got Drew Holiday back.
You could also throw the Timberwolves in there, even though they are 5-10, but also have a positive point differential.
Yeah, but are they too young though?
But that's the thing. Maybe the youngness where you have guys like D Wade and Jimmy Butler, or you have teams like that, like the Spurs. They might wear themselves out, or might have to sit players, and then that's when the Timberwolves can snap, steal a couple games. The one thing with that is, I think the Thunder are a playoff team because I'm going to compare him to 2006, 2005 Kobe, where Kobe was averaging 35, 36 a night, where Kobe was dominating
His
games.
usage was like 38% or something crazy. Like, it was like Jordan's high, pretty much, was Kobe's high. And Russ is like 41 this year.
And the best player Kobe had was Lamar Odom, and outside of that, he had a young Andrew Bynum, and that was really it. He didn't have a lot of help on the 2006, 2017 or the 2005, 2006 team, and he was averaging 35, 36 a night. And I think that's who I'm going to compare him to, because in 2006, 2007, I believe, or 2005, 2006, they were 42-40, and that made them got them into the playoffs. They went to the Western Conference Finals, lost to the Suns 4-1, and I think that's going to be the team that they will be most like, where you're going to be carried by a guy like Kobe Bryant. You're going to be carried by a guy by Russell Westbrook. Yeah. And you might see some games where Oladipo scores 30 a night, or Cantor and Adams go for 30 combined. I think you might see games like that where Russ doesn't have to carry him every single night. But if you're going to look at most of these wins, Russ is going to be the guy carrying them. And I think that's going to be carrying them into the playoffs as well.
But the one thing that does concern me, and this is just through 2 things concern me about the Thunder. And I know I'm going to say this first. I know it's early. I know things in the NBA can kind of change on a dime. You kind of go through ebbs and flows in a season.
Russ can get hurt.
But their last 10 games, I would see this as a little bit of a red flag, because they started out, you look at their games before that, only losing 1 game up into that point. And it's like, okay, a loss to Toronto, a loss against the Clippers, you can take those in stride, because you can just say, you know what, they're great teams, and plus DeMar DeRozan's playing out of his mind. He had 37 in that game that Toronto came to town. But you lose to the Magic. The Pistons, it's like, okay, they're an 8th seed in the East. You can maybe live with that one. But then you lose to the Pacers, who have been a shit show this year. You lose
That's not true. They've been good at home, and they lost to the Pacers at Indiana.
But you lose to the Kings then on top of it. It's one of those teams where I look at Magic, I look at Pacers, and I look at Kings.
Magic are dead last in our power ranking. Spoiler alert.
Well, and I look at those losses and I go, really? You lost to the Kings. It wasn't close. You lost 116-101.
Yeah.
Really?
But then you can also say they've beaten Houston, who's a top 4 team in the West right now. They've beaten LA, who's a top 2 team. The thing with that is, Russ can't do it every single night, and I think we know that.
And the schedule early on is brutal with how many back-to-backs that have been going down. I think that NBA scheduling is one of the...
That's Dave's key to the NBA season is back-to-backs. I love it.
Well, that's the thing. You had to play Toronto on the 9th, then LA on the 11th, then Orlando on the 13th, and then the Pistons on the 14th.
Because you brought up the same thing about the Warriors
I think
when
it's
they
huge.
lost to the Lakers. You're like, oh, it's a back-to-back.
And they spanked the shit out of them when they went back, when LA went back to Golden State. No, I think that scheduling is one of the most... it's kind of like the silent killer for a lot of these teams because early on in the season, conditioning's not there. A lot of guys are coming in, I don't want to say, out of shape, but out of shape, to be fair. Like, it's hard early in the season. Later in the season, it gets better, and, like, they can survive it. And, of course, you have time to rest between. Early on, you want to go every night. You want to be there. You want to be out there. And it's hard to tell guys, take a seat on night 7 of the season. I mean, it's just not something easy you can do. And I know, like, LeBron's already sat out a game. It's something that takes a lot of time and a little bit of patience out of your team. But, like, I think that this is a team that definitely can get carried by Russ. I think they're going to go deep. Not deep, Jesus. Sorry, I got on a roll there.
To the playoffs.
They're going to go to the playoffs, yeah.
I think this could be a year where it's, you have a winning record, but you're not in the playoffs.
See, with the thing is I'll take the current top 5 teams. I even will say Memphis might fall out, but the top the 4 teams in Golden State, LA, San Antonio, and Houston, I think they'll stay in. I think you got 4 teams in the playoffs. I was holding up 3 fingers. You can keep those 4 teams in the playoffs. I think the Jazz too. They'll be up and down, but they'll still make the playoffs here. And then you'll have so that's 16 or 5 teams right there in the playoffs. And then I'm saying, all right, who's got the superstar? You have Memphis, you have Oklahoma, you have Portland, you have LA, you have maybe New Orleans and Minnesota. I'm going to take Russ out of all those other teams. I think that Russ is going to be able to carry them into the playoffs. Now, are they going to be able to go far? That's a different question. That's a different story. But Russ will be able to get the Oklahoma City Thunder into the playoffs. I don't know how far. I just think that they will make it to the playoffs when this is all said and done.
I don't know. Right now, I'm looking at this team, and I think that this 10-game stretch, it's not one of those where it's like dead in the water, you're done.
And some of them in close losses and some of them in close wins.
But it's a red flag. It's a red flag to me, and I think that the team needs to go, hey, we need to look at this because we can't afford another season like 2 years ago when Durant was out and we missed the playoffs with just Westbrook.
I think right now the problem is that they have 2 holes they need to fill, and one at small forward, obviously they've been trying different guys to make that work, and 2 is that scorer off the bench because Oladipo gives you the hope of being that number 2 scorer on the team, but his play style is so similar to Russ's that I don't know. I know it works every once in a while, but I feel like that they need a legit stud outside scorer. Maybe they can pick one up before in trade deadline. Maybe there's a chance there.
And the one thing I will say, just to be a dick, Sean, when you go,
you are a dick.
When some of these games have been close, I'm going to say this ain't college. A loss is a loss. College, you get that. Well, you lost here, but it was a quality loss, so we're going to look at it. In the NBA, a loss is a loss.
It's also 17 games into their season, so they still have
time to blow it up.
Yep, time to blow it up.
Like I said, it's still early.
Thanks, Katie. But yeah, no, I think that's just the thing too. Is also look at where they are at least shooting percentage wise. They're shooting 34% from 3 as a team. I mean that's brutal. So if you're going to look for help here, you're going to look for 3-point shooting. That's something they've always been looking for in OKC was that 2 guard who could shoot threes. Now you have that in Oladipo, but the reason you have that is because KD left and you had a 3 who could shoot threes. Now you don't have that, so maybe you look for help there. Maybe we'll talk about that later in our trade talk with a guy from Sacramento, in Omer Caspi.